everybody, welcome to a Painting Perfection Countryside Beauty Workshop. A real pleasure to have your company. There's lots of you on here. We're making quite good inroads into teaching people to paint. So I'm so delighted to see you all. If you can hear us, give us a wave. There we go. Hi, everybody. So good to see so many of you. I'm loving the fact that you're painting or in actually watching and then still painting along afterwards. And remember, if you do have to nip out, go to make a cup of tea or whatever, then this is recorded and you can watch it back as many times as you like. Also, if you've got any questions, please also put the questions in the chat and I'll try and answer them as I go along. Now, I'm going to treat this as a separate project. So I'm going to teach it from start to finish. And we're going to focus on actually painting a full scene in this class. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to lay down the background for the sky. Now I'm working on a piece of 300 GSM white card. It isn't, I haven't cut it to size or anything. What I am going to do at some point during the class is I'll just put my oval over it so that you can see how the design gets framed. So I know that I need to keep my painting in this sort of area. So I've just got that in mind as I'm laying down the background and particularly the clouds. So I'm going to start with a flat brush. I've got number 18 in my hand. Just got the tiniest little bit of water that I've just picked up because this brush has been cleaned and may still have a tiny bit of brush cleaner in it. And just to let everybody know, I think the brush cleaner is back on stock, in stock, and the website's got literally today and tomorrow 25% off everything. Right, so I've got my brushes slightly, very, very slightly damp to touch, and I've put out ultramarine and my white, and I'm just going to use these to lay down the paint. So starting off with a triangle of white on both sides of the brush, and then I'm picking up the blue on both sides of the brush, and I'm just going to work that into the bristles. And once I've done that, I'm going to dip the whole of the tip of the brush into the white, and we're then going to come onto our page, and I'm just going to lay down some colour, and I'm just literally stroking this backwards and forwards. Now I'm going to bring this over so that you can see I've picked white across the whole tip. The darker shade's at this side and the lighter shade is there. So I'm going so that I keep going dark, light, dark, and I'm just laying down that bit of colour. Now, if you have got extender, you can use your extender, but I'm working without it today because I know some of you will and some of you won't have it. Again, 2 triangles, and I'm just pulling that colour together. So now, because I went dark and then I've gone lighter, and now I'm putting the next colour on, I'm going light to light, so you can see here. I'm not worrying about where I've got some little gaps. That doesn't worry me at all. I'm going to put a little bit more of that blue down. I'm just going to check that my painting is going wide enough for the design and the frame that I'm going to work with. And I'm going back into the white, and I'm just going to lay that white down. And I'm literally, as you see now, going across, backwards and forwards, creating that sky. So if I pull my teaching guide, mine is quite a lot darker, but you can see that's the effect that we've got. Little bit of texture in there, which we've got some of that texture here because we didn't put just, we didn't have it quite enough paint on our brush on some of it, and that's doesn't matter, but that's the effect that we're looking for. So we've got that down. That's the first part of the story. The next thing that you need is you need a brush that we have given a little haircut to. So this is the one that started off as a round brush. So it starts off looking like this. And you go into it and you give it a haircut. And in fact, I'm just going to give this one a bit more of a haircut because I just want it a little bit shorter and stubbier. So that's what it looks like. Let's get that out of the way, those little bits of the bristles. We don't want to build those in the painting. Just got told off for putting it on the floor, but I'll worry about that later. Okay, so now we've got to get these clouds in. Now, when we do the clouds, if you take a look at this, we're doing some lovely pouncing up and down. And I've watched so many clouds over the last few weeks, and I really love what you can do when you've got your clouds. So I'm going to take just a tiny bit of black, and it is just the smallest amount. Now, you can use black, you can use grey. I have used purples. This purple looks great because we just want to get a tint onto the edge of the cloud. So I'm going to work with two things. I'm going to use the blue and the black. So I'm going to come into the white and I'm just going to pick up on the whole of the brush. And I'm going to pounce that in until it is right in the bristles in the middle. And I'm moving the brush round and I'm getting it so that it's all over the bristles. Pick that up again and do the same thing. And now I'm picking up a tiniest little bit of the blue from that edge, so you can see it's there, and the tiniest little bit of the black. And I'm just going to pounce that in. And it gives us this sort of little bit of shading. And then we're going to do this. So we're putting in the clouds. And what I want to make sure when I'm doing these and I'm putting them in is that I don't end up, and this is really important. In fact, I'll make it happen so that you can see what I'm talking about. What we don't want is this. So it looks like it's a line. That we definitely don't want to do. So we need to make sure that we move it around, but at the same time, you keep that white edge because that is really important. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to bring the white in again. And you can now see how that white is over the top. And I'm just going to let that just fade away here. So we've got those clouds just coming in there. And that black has just given us that little bit of a tint. So there's a little bit of grey in the clouds. It's a little tiny bit of a cloudy day. Not too much because we want to get, and there's lots of different clouds. So over the different tutorials that I'm doing, I'm actually showing you different clouds, but this one is very white. It's very white, very fluffy, and you can see there, I've just been able to take that little bit of cloud into here. So we've got a really blue sky with lots of clouds in there, and look, you can see how that starts to already look stunning and builds in that detail. It's so simple to be able to look at how you can get these effects. So the next part of the story that we need to do is this. And it's these sweeping strokes where we'll start off with maybe a blending gel across the whole of the brush and then put the other colours on. And that helps us just take the paint and just glide that little bit further. And I'm just going to double check because I think my blending gel might be empty. So I'm just going to look, and I did realise that when I came into here. I'm sorry about this, guys, but that one is a little bit empty, so we're going to need to get another bottle of blending gel. So I'm going to get Andrew on that because he's on it straight away. We'll check it. There isn't one. I thought I'd picked one up, I didn't. Okay, let me talk to you about, first of all, the differences with and without. So without the blending gel, we've got to get a lot of paint on our brush. With the blending gel, it just helps us slide a little bit further. Now, quite easily, we could do this picture and it wouldn't matter that we haven't got the blending gel. But what will happen is we will need to overload our brush to be able to get the distance that we want. It's really not a challenge because both methods work equally as well. It's just one of them is slightly smoother in the way that the paint flows rather than being having to feel the drag a little bit. So let's talk about the colours that we're going to use. So I'm going to pick a few shades here because I want to get some different effects. And actually, I'm just going to put this walnut to one side because, interestingly, that is not the colour that it looks. I'll show you this. This is a proper secret. Okay, if you look at this bottle of walnuts. Looks absolutely perfect, doesn't it? Do you want to see some magic? Do you know what Andrew said? Oh, right, don't blink, everybody. Ta-da. Did you see? Yeah, I know that's really naughty, isn't it? Yeah. Do you know, I need to explain why, don't I? We were trying to do some photography and we didn't have all the colours that we needed. And actually, this is a really good thing to share with you. So what we did was we took another bottle of paint, we put a new label over the top, which you can see there. So we put that new label over the top. But this bit, I think, is the bit that makes it the most interesting because we actually painted the bottle. Now, so there you go. We painted the bottle, but if you look at this, it's painted it brilliantly. And actually, even on the plastic, it's not it now, unless I really, really scratch it, it's not rubbing off. It's peeling off because the label went on while it was still a little bit wet. But yeah, how amazing is that? That's how good the paints are. They're just phenomenal. So blending gel, which is, I'll just get rid of that little bit of paint that I've created, which is our clear liquid. And I've actually put some of that out. You can see there, I've got quite a nice amount of it. I'm just going to get a few shades of green because we'll need more than one. We also need some yellow. So I'm going to get that out there too. We're going to want some brown. So I'm just going to get a little bit of brown in there. And actually, I think that's probably where we need to actually start. So the first pass that I'm going to do it without any blending gel because I want you to see the differences that we can get with it. So I'll just get one bit more, make sure that's a different green because I'm looking for a second green, which I know I've got somewhere, which is there. Okay, so get another little bit of green. Right, okay, so now when we come to put these all together, so this was the brush that I used for my clouds, and I'm going to work with this one again. Quite happy that this is the right size, and it's a number 18. So the first part of this story is, first of all, I'm going to show you how we do this shape. So I'm actually not going to do that directly onto my picture. I'm just going to show you the practice. So the first thing that I'm doing, I'm picking up the green, 2 shades of green, get them really loaded into the brush. And we'll do one with and one without the blending gel. So this first one is without, and I'm picking up the tiniest little bit of blue. And the reason that I'm doing that is I want the colour to have the tint of the sky. So a little tint of the blue in the sky. I've got the 2 shades of green, and then I just dipped into my clover green to give myself a little bit, to just soften that top colour. So if I go up on the chisel edge like this, you press down, you turn and you pull as long as you want that hill to be, and then you lift up on the chisel edge and you come like that. So it's like one of those big leaves that we do. And then this one, let's do this. And again, pull down and you come to that edge. And you can see how they start to overlap each other. And I'll do another one here that's going to start on the chisel edge and then goes wide to there. Okay. Now, that was a little bit scratchy to work with. So let's look at what happens if I use my blending gel. So I've just dipped the tip of the brush in the blending gel and you'll notice how different it is. First of all, slightly translucent, but it literally goes further. And you don't get, it's more glidey, it's more slippery. You don't get quite the density of colour that you get here, but this is a great effect to be able to use when we want to create different layers and different textures in our fields. So I'm just going to do that stroke once more for you with quite extreme colours so that you can see the difference in it. So I've just picked up some white as well. So you're on the chisel edge, you press down, you pull your colour across. As you're lifting up your chisel edge, you then let that follow through. And then if I was to do it on the other side, I press down, turn it again, let that just come below there and follow through. Okay, so we're overlapping our fields and making a little valley. So just going to pop that to one side and come on to our project. And I'm going to go, oh, and a good point, got an opportunity to point something out to you. The green has run up here, just run up there. It's made the bristles a little bit darker because I've got some water in it. Look what happens when I just squeeze that water out. It goes back and you can see the bristles again. So get that water out if it starts to bleed. So we're going to go the clover green and then the emerald. Both of those colours together, pull that paint right down. So again, clover and emerald there. Through the white on the edge of the clover, through the blue on the edge of the emerald. Just bringing in that extra little bit of colour. And now we're going to put the first fields in. So over this side, and I'm just going to come down and I'm just going to let that field come down there. Okay, so that's the first one. The next one, I want to get some yellow into it. So I've really pulled in that yellow to lighten it and give it a little bit more contrast. So I've got the yellow that's in there and I'm just going to pull the edge of my brush through that greenery and you'll see that the yellow is almost like a streak in the middle. And this one is going to come on this side and I'm just going to pull that down and we're going to overlay there. So I've got a little bit of lightness going on in the middle, just here. Now, this time I need to still get some more fields in. So I'm going to be picking up the colours, as you can see, and I'm working my brush across this palette. So I'm keeping these colours, but I'm working the colours across the brush. Just take a tiny little bit of the brown there, and then let's go across here. And we'll let that brush and that field just come to there. So you can see how the fields are layering into each other. I now need one more, and this one's going to come from here, from this side. And I'm actually going quite a long way with it, right across to there, and then letting that come up. So you can see how now we're really laying down those fields. It's looking a little bit dark from my side. I hope it's not looking too dark at your end, but I'm just going to come on here and putting in a little bit of lightness. So you can see I've got another layer that's come in there. Picking up a bit more yellow still because I want to get this so that it's really bringing in some vibrancy. So there. So we've got those layers. So what we're doing here is we're building in the layers as you can see them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just layering them up as you go. Again, I'm going to take my mount and just check how that's looking. Liking the way that's working, it's working really well. I can still get one more of these in because I think I've still got room for a little bit more, maybe even a little bit of white. This is where having photographs in front of you is a really good thing because it gives you some ideas. Now also, the other thing is I'm now doing some wiggles. So I'm just getting a bit of movement in the fields, just sort of letting that little bit of a wiggle come in. And you can see, again, a bit of different elements. Don't be scared as well to just side swipe some of your colour. Play with this on your palette. So take the things that you've been practicing on and just play with them and look at the effects that you can get and whether, there's anything else that you really, and also the other thing is use this as an opportunity to really get the paint off your brush. What we don't want to be doing is this, because if you're doing that, you just end up with it mixed on your brush. So don't do that. But you can see how I've put some extra layers into it, and we're adding depth into this, really going out into the distance. So coming back into my original design, I'm just going to clean this brush down for a moment. And while that is just cleaning, let's see whether this white, I think, we'll use the white that's here. So I'm going to pick up the brown and the green, and you can see I'm just sliding the brush into the paint like this. I'm picking it up, and then I'm going to do the same on this side, and let's just get that pounced in. So still got a light and a dark. Make sure you keep that light and dark the best you can, because we're going to put some trees up here, and we want to be able to put them so that they're a little bit dark at the bottom, as I'm doing here. So you can see from the angle of the brush where I'm touching it, and then I'm turning it over and getting that little bit of the trees in the background. I'm just going to come down here and I'm going to put some more. So I'm going again. This is like a little hedge that I've got just here. And I'm just going to put that little bit of the darker colour to the bottom. So there. So I've just put those hedges in a little bit. Now we need to go into, I'm just going to dry this brush off. So I'm really going to squeeze that tight. And now I'm ready to put in the other fields. So I like to sort of vary the techniques that I'm doing because it's a bit of fun as well to stop one, do a little bit of something else, and then go back into the next. So this time I'm going to use some white and my green. So I've got those two colours. Now, the white, clearly, we don't get white grass. So this is just to lighten it and give me another shade of green. I'm going to dip into my brush like that, and I've gone all the way across the edge, but I'm still keeping that light to dark effect that we've got. a bit more of the darker green, the emerald. So I've still got light to dark. Then the other colour, the original green that I was working with, which was our clover. And I'm, again, still light to dark. I'm going to pick up the tiniest little bit of clover across the whole brush. And we're ready with that. And then I'm pulling the brush and just picking the paint off there to make sure that I've got enough for this brush that I'm going to do. So I'm going to come up here, quite high up, and I'm creating just sort of like a little field. It's quite light and I'm not sure I like it. So I'm going to go back over it. But before I do that, I'm going to put this one on this side so I can just gauge it. So yeah, about there, I think. And that colour's a lot better. So let's take a tiny little bit of yellow. I think that might just be what's missing. Yeah, there we go. This is a perfect colour now. So there, so I'm just going to go over the edge of it, make it so that we've got a little bit of a hill. And then I'm going to come down and across here. And so one of the things to think about, and so now going back into my palette, and I'll talk to you about how you choose where your colours are. So just using that darker green. And this is probably one of the few exceptions where I would go over something more than once to just layer those colours up, like I've got there. And what we're doing is when we're looking at this and you're looking at the design, use the teaching guide as an example, because that you'll find that will help you massively. But if it looks like it's getting too dark, it's getting too brown, go in with a little bit of yellow, because you'd be surprised how much yellow there is in our countryside when you start to break it down. In the autumn, you know, this time of year, you see a lot more reds and blues, but that little bit of yellow just brings the fields forward. And we're going to be putting our fence and everything else on, but you can just see there, look at that. Not quite sure about the angle, so I think I might just change it. That's, you know, that's the opportunity that you've got with this paint, which is one of the reasons that we all love it so much, is I'm just going to get rid of some of those little bumps. There we go, I think a bit smoother. Yeah, prefer that. Right, I'm going to put my tree trunks in. So my tree trunk still needs to be light and dark. So I've got my brown and my green, and I'm just going to load this brush so that I've got the brown right in there. And I'm going to keep loading until it feels creamy. So the brown is just going into one side of the brush at the moment. That's really made a difference. It's lovely and creamy. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of the white because we need to get rid of that green. But I need the white in there first before I tip dip. So I go across the whole of the brush with the brown. And I'm just going to come back in. And now from my palette, you can see, look, I've still got a little bit of green in there. I've still got it's lightened it, but I've got that white in, and that's actually just softened the brown. And now I'm just going to pick up a little bit more brown and we're ready to come onto our page. And I'm going to go from, and I'm just going to check because we don't want to lose the bottom of the tree. So I'm going to go from about here, and I'm just going to go up the side of the design and look at how my brush angle is now changing. And it's going to go out there. And then I'm going to come back in and pull my chisel edge together. And I'm now going to put myself a trunk just there. And it looks like it's coming away from the tree. The way that it's joined in here is really sort of works really cleverly. And then this one, we're just going to take it up there. And I'm just going to put another one there. And then over here, slightly smaller. And if you look, I've got the brush not going straight up, but at a slight angle. And it's just going to slide up like that there. So the sun is just coming through the valley and it's just catching the edges of both of those trees. And that's the start of the design. Oh, I need to just put some branches in here because they're just going to be random because they're going to be covered in foliage. But if there's a bit of foliage that doesn't quite cover it all, I don't want us to just see open sky with nothing in it. So now I've got my green and my brown, my two greens on my brush again. And I'm going to come in and we're just going to put this in a few places. So I'm not going to try and do the whole tree in one go. I'm just going to do a little bit of it. And this one is the same kind of tree. It's just, it's a few years younger. So there we go. That's the first part of it. But I now need some more of my emerald and my clover, a little bit of the brown, because we want those colours to be really sort of intense. And look now at how that brown is just adding in another layer of shading in our design. We're just going to go in a bit deeper this time. You can pick these colours up and do them one by one if it feels, you feel you get better definition and you can see the colour better if you're just letting those shades go themselves. Then I'm going to take a little bit of the emerald and put that on as a fresh green. So it's a nice fresh colour and we can see the leaves through there. And then now we go yellow where the emerald was, where the clover was, I beg your pardon. So you want two colours like that. I'm going to take these and I'm going to pounce these and I'm going to bring, this is the one that makes the difference, that little bit of yellow. And surprisingly, yellow's not one of my favourite colours, but when I'm painting, I absolutely cannot manage without it because it gives me so many of my highlights and colour that I need. So just in here, a little bit of it on those leaves where the sun's just catching, a little bit of it. And once more, just in here. So, yeah, that. There, right, I've got a little splodge here. How do we put that right? So what we do, pounce the paint off, take a little tiny bit of the colour that's behind, which is the white, and just break it up with that. So I've got rid of my little splodge. I've just broken it up, and once that dries, it looks like it's part of the clouds. Okay, still not happy. I think I need to do a bit more work on here. I've got it very dense in the middle. So I'm going to go back in with my brown. I want to break up this colour that I've got and just get a little bit more detail. And finally, I'm just going to go back in with a little tiny bit of that darker green and just add, oops, let's get that in there, up there, break this up down here. Just come down the edge of there. Okay, so pretty happy with the way that's going. And I've still got some paint on this brush, so I'm going to just utilise it and put myself a little bit of greenery at the bottom of this tree and just ground it. Not too much, just enough to start to get some detail in there. Let's just take a little look at how this is starting to come together. Liking the fact that I've got distance and depth with it. I can choose how far up I go with my clouds. I really like that bit of dark blue at the top. Looks quite bright. I can come across a little bit further or across that way. So you've got lots of that extra little bit of movement. And now we're coming back to our brown and our flat brush. And so here I've already got a little bit of white on, but I'm going to get a tiny bit more. So the brown and the white together, and this is going to become our fence. Now, the fence is literally some fence posts that are just touching the ground as we go and just run out. Now this one, because this is the bit that goes across the fence, I'm just touching it very carefully. So I don't want it to be too, that one's broken. So you can see how that's going to go if that's your fence. So we've just popped that in. Those little bits of highlight, remember the sun's going through the valley, so you're getting this little bit of highlight that we've got here. And now we're going to start to put in some of the grasses. So again, without cleaning this brush, can you imagine how much cleaning we'd have to do if we had to keep taking these colours off? And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to do some very fine little grasses. Not too many of them because my brush has got quite a lot of brown in it and I don't want my grass to be too brown. Then back into the green and the white because I've just about used enough of that up. And let's go again. So this time we've got a bit more, a little bit lighter. I'm going to take some of that white off because it's too much. So just judge as you go along. Are you happy with the colours? You know, do you feel like you've got the colour that you want? Is it giving you everything that you need in terms of where you want your colour stories to be? And the other thing is, can I just point out how I'm supporting my hand here? So I've just got my fingers supporting this part of my hand. So when I'm doing my little strokes, instead of me having to then make sure it's straight, I'm just using my hand to support it. So just getting a few of these up here. Now my brush strokes are okay, but they aren't as smooth and as clean as I'd like. And I'm looking at my brush and thinking I've got ridges in here and my chisel edge isn't as closed as possible. So I'm just going to pop that one down, and I am actually going to go to a slightly smaller brush. So I'm going to use, let's go actually quite small. We'll go to a number 10 or a 12. Actually, I've got, what have I got here? I've got a 14. That'll have to do. So I'm going to go into the yellow and the green. So if you think about it, we have used quite a bit of yellow in this picture and the green there. And I'm just going to put these little bits of grass in here. Just realised I'm squinting. I've got my glasses on my head. Honestly, some days. There we go. That's loads better. It helps I can see. So just getting that bit of greenery in. And at this stage, this is the stage where I think it looks the most, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to spoil it kind of look. But we get that back almost instantly now because we go into our brown and our green. Let's get those two colours together. And we're going to put in some of the soil from that tree, and we're just going to take it down here. And we're just going to let the greenery go along the bottom of the fence like we've got there. And a little bit of it just over here, just letting that bit come across there. So we're building in that bit of detail. I'm not sure about these white bits of greenery I've got there. I'm going to go back in and I just want to check, put some more lines in that fence. So I'm just going to pick this up, and a tiny bit of white. Let's just get this a bit more challenging to do because I've got a smaller brush, but just want to get those in there, the bits across, that's better. And then we'll get these grasses in, and let's get them in better. There we go, that's a lot better. Just finishing off those little edges, just giving it that little bit of detail. And if you get, while you're painting at home, you get to the stage where you think, I really don't like this. So First thing, stop, go and get yourself a cup of tea. When you come back, take a picture of the design and the stage that it's at there and then, because you may find that you will find it, the next couple of stages will make all the difference. But it's good to look back at where you were, at what point you thought this isn't working and you were about to change your mind. And in fact, because you kept going, you've got that really good finish. And what I've done here is I've gone from the larger strokes down to some smaller ones. I've put a few in just here. I'm going to come in with some more, and I need to have plenty of paint on my brush because that brown's still wet and I don't want to drag it with me. I want to make sure that I'm keeping my colour just there. Okay. Some more green at the bottom, so some more moss and just grass texture. So there, along the bottom. Let's get a little bit of that yellow. So we've got some little highlights of it along here. So just checking that, liking that. Little bits of lightness in the floor as I go along. Just bringing that in and grounding what we've got there. So yeah, it's looking good. Next part of it is I want to put some white into that floor. So some little white flowers, they're almost like the daisies and coming through the grass. So I've just wiped off my brush and put it in the water, just rinsed it, not completely. I mean, it's by far, it's a long way from being clean, but it's clean enough that when I pick the white up now, I'm just going to get pure white. And I'm just going to put a little bit of, this is just some daisies in the, here, a little bit. This is a flock of sheep. So you can do that by dipping and touching if you want. But I've found over the last few weeks that's become I've been quite heavy-handed with that. So I'm just going to go in. Just they're my daisies. Let's take my picture and have a look at how that's coming together. Really liking it. Now I want to put some flowers in over this side. So we're going to need some new colours, and the colours that I would like are my reds. So some of the crimson or cherry are good ones, and plum, any of those kind of shades, something that's a bit dark, really good too. So got those two shades. So a little bit of the red on both sides of the brush, but I'm really going to go in with this one. And what I'm doing is I'm touching the brush to the paper and I'm almost sort of squishing the bristles and just getting a little bit of a tiniest little bit of a wiggle in there. So you've got just that little bit of a floral sort of explosion of petals, and just, it is literally a touch and a tiniest little wiggle, and then just go round there. And I'm just going to put a tiniest little bit in there. So once you've got all of those, we go to the black, and a really small little dot in the black, and it is just bringing in those little petals. Then we're going to go in and I'm going to pick up, so I'm dotting some of the yellows and the whites. So when we dot, we are doing the tiniest little dot, and then we're doing a few others. So you touch into the card, make sure you tap off any excess. These are going in here, and they're going in amongst some of those flowers. And again, I'm tapping off, so I want one bigger one there. So we've got a little bit of this floral, just all these little wildflowers in here. Then I'm going to make some pink by just taking some white and some of the red and get these so that they're a little bit lighter. But we'll pop some of those in amongst this as well. And a tiny bit of that more red. So we can get a bit more. And they go in here like this. And like this. And that. And here. And you're just going to get a little bit more and a few more. There. Okay, now this is the trickiest bit because we need to check our pouncing brush. So I've still got quite a bit of white on it, so I'm pouncing that off so it's quite light. And you go in and you pounce over these, but you want to smudge them, but you don't want to smudge the whole thing. So if you go over it once, like I'm doing, and you get it a bit smudged, then don't then go back and don't keep going over it because you lose all your definition. But that's the effect that we're looking for. And then you pick up the tiniest bit of red and you go in just so it looks like there are a few more poppies in there, just like that. But we've got the definition of that little cluster of poppies that we can see there. So I'm just going to take my design and have a look at how that's looking. I'm thinking it's coming together really quite nicely. Loving what I've been able to do. The one thing that I think I'd like to do is put some little birds up in the sky, and they are super easy to do. The easiest way of doing them is to get yourself a fine liner, and I'm going with a grey one, and I'm just going to put little, let's get you working, these little birds. Where don't you want to go? There we go. They're very, very pale. That's grey's probably too light, actually. Let's go with, I don't want to go too dark. So, brown one, let's try you. Yeah, so little brown. There we go. Some little birds. So they're in the sky. And that is ready for us to frame. Oh, I can only see one bird. Never. Another one in. There. There we go. Just there. So I can come down a little bit and over. I can go over and up. Quite like it, I think. Although I do like that bit at the bottom. That's hard, isn't it? Up a bit. Oh, no, down a bit. I think I'm going to go about there. So that's our scene. We've painted that in, well, what have we been? 48 minutes, everybody, and been able to paint that. Now, if you are somebody who has been doing flowers, the next thing that you can do is this. So I'm taking the two reds that I've got, working with that really bright red, because we need lots of that. A little bit of the dark, lots of the bright. Just going to go a tiny bit of brown and red. Get you there. Like that. And we're going to put there. There. So I'm putting just one little poppy. Let's go just here. Like that. There. And maybe just a little poppy head. Let's put that on there. to, I need to get some black into the centre of the poppy. So we'll just pop you just there, like that. Then we need our greens. I'm just going to take some of this red off this brush. I don't want quite so much. Let's take greens, a little bit of yellow. Made a real mess of my palette today, but happy with the results that we've got so far. So into my green, into my yellow. There. And I need some stems. So I'm doing a tiny little twist at the top, and that one is just going to disappear behind. This one, a tiny little twist, and that's going to disappear. This one is going to come round here. We're going to do a long up and down little things, and this one an up and down, coming over there. And then finally, let's take this and put the tiniest little bit of yellow just on the top. Got a little bit of pollen. And that is our project. So, giving ourselves somewhere perfectly to sign. There we go. Oh, it's one of one. So you can see, really super fun creating these designs. Love the fact that there's so much that you can do with it. Only got a couple of minutes left. Just wanted to mention something, give you guys the chance before anybody else, is I'm actually going to do another workshop, and it's this one. I'm going to teach making these bags. So if you want the whole kit, so it's the class 4 of the bags that you've got here, and it also includes this bundle of paints, no brushes, but all of those. The class is £40, like that. But remember, at the moment, there's 25% off the website. So you'll get the bags and you get the paints and the whole and the class. And if you want just the class on its own, it's £25, or the paints are £3.99 each. That's £23.94. Just wanted to give you guys a chance to do that first. Everything on the Highlight Crafts website has got 25% off, and that is as of today, which is Tuesday, the 27th of September. Where has the time gone, everybody? And the 25% off, I believe, is for 48 hours. So could be wrong. Keep checking. But if you want to shop and you need to top up on your paints, get them while we've got the deals on. And I'm really sorry if you're watching this at a later date and you've missed it. Let's say it's 2026. Sorry, you need to be 3 years earlier. 4. Maths was never my strong point. See you guys soon. Thank you so much for joining in. It is always a pleasure, as always. And don't forget, when you're painting, frame your design as you go along. You'll find it so much easier to create the composition and make sure you've got everything in place. And finish it off, if you can, with those florals. Just make a little bit of difference. Lots of love, everyone. See you all soon. Take care, everybody. And I'll see you soon.